Gotham Knights is going to allow players to step into the shoes of 4 members of the Bat family. And though they're all fan favorites in their own rights and have interesting backstories and histories, probably the one that stands out as the most fascinating character of the bunch is Jason Todd. That, after all, has kind of been the point of this character for almost as long as he's been around, going all the way back to his early days in the DC comics. That he stands out from the crowd for some reason or other, for better or for worse. Gotham Knights has, of course, set in its own continuity, which means the Jason Todd we see in the game isn't going to be the same Jason Todd we've seen before in comics or elsewhere, like, say for instance, Batman Arkham Knight.
You really have no idea, do you, Bruce?
Jason, but you're dead.
So we don't know what exactly the backstory and history of this particular rendition of the character is going to be. We can, however, look at the character's general history over the years and try and make some educated guesses about where he could be heading in Gotham Knights. One thing that Jason Todd is going to have in common with the DC Comics source material that fans have come to know and love is his brush with death. That's a core component of the character at this point, so it's not surprising that WB Games Montreal's take on the character is going to revolve around that as well. How exactly Jason Todd died in Gotham Knights' universe remains unknown, but we do know that he got brought back to life courtesy of the League of Shadows' Lazarus Pit, which is something that has been commonly associated with the character over the years. After that, he came back to Gotham City at some point and adopted the Red Hood persona.
Are you?
Not yet, Dark Knight.
There are several questions that bear asking. For instance, can we assume that it was the Joker who killed Jason before he got brought back to life? That's been the character's most infamous moment throughout DC history, and it's been used in stories time and time again over the years. Obviously, the Jason Todd we're seeing in Gotham Knights isn't the misguided, vengeful person he's been often portrayed as in stories. So we can assume that the story won't head in that direction. But his brutal encounter with the Clown Prince of Gotham could still be an important part of his backstory.
Have you got something to tell the nice man, Jason?
My name is Jason Todd.
Who do you hate?
Batman.
Excellent. Of course you do. Did you get that, Bats?
It does very much seem like Jason has reconciled with the Bat family in Gotham Knights, which is interesting for several reasons. He's still donning his Red Hood mask, or hood, and is still adopting that persona for crime-fighting purposes. But he seems to be going about it in a different way than what the Red Hood has generally been known for, as most DC fans can tell you. One of the things that has usually set him apart from the rest of the Bat family is his willingness to use lethal force when necessary, and, quite often, even when it isn't necessary. Jason Todd has resorted to excessive violence with some regularity throughout his history, and that's something that stretches back to before his Red Hood days, even back when he was still under Bruce Wayne's wing as the second Robin. When he came back as the Red Hood, he was full-on anti-hero, and he was combining all the physical training he'd received from the Dark Knight himself with his own tendency to use firearms and lethal weapons as when needed. Or not needed. Clearly, he's not doing that in Gotham Knights. The weapons and gadgets he's using all seem to be non-lethal, and he seems to be following the whole no-killing shtick that the Bat family is so fond of, even though Batman himself is supposedly dead. Will the game's story delve into the particular aspect of his arc and tell us how he came around on that specific point? Was it Batman's supposed death that forced him to drop his previous methods and work with other members of the Bat family? Or was that the leaf that he had turned over before his mentor was killed? We sure hope we get the answers to these questions, because it could make for some good storytelling drama. Of course, what's particularly interesting about WB Games Montreal's rendition of Jason Todd is that it isn't just rehashing old and well-worn stories. There's some stuff about him that's very new, and in turn, quite interesting. It's also something that's proven controversial among several fans since it was first revealed. Like Batman and other members of the Bat family, the Red Hood has never had any actual superpowers, even in spite of the fact he was literally brought back from death. The only weapons he's ever had at his disposal are his training, his own peak physical condition, and any actual weapons and gadgets he can scrounge up and use. He's a relatively grounded character in the same way Batman is, though like every comic book character, that groundedness only goes so far. In Gotham Knights, however, it seems like Jason Todd may very well be the least grounded character among the cast. That's because the Lazarus Pit seems to have given him some special abilities. During a recent gameplay stream, we found out that while other characters will traverse and glide around Gotham City using real-world tools and gadgets, or as close to real-world as they could get without being questioned out of existence, the Red Hood is going to literally just jump around and walk on thin air. According to WB Games Montreal, who are calling this ability the Mystic Leap. He's using his soul energy to propel himself upward. We really liked the idea that as Jason starts to confront the trauma of dying and being brought back, he begins to be able to tap into some sort of lost ability. Creative director Patrick Redding said during a recent QA with fans, "In the same way that he's tried to reinvent himself from anti-hero to hero while retraining his strengths, he discovers he can channel these mystic talents in ways that he finds familiar, through his physicality and in how he moves, but also in how he fights and even how he uses his weapons." That least bit in particular is interesting, that it's not just traversal but also combat that'll see the effects of Jason Todd's tryst with the Lazarus Pit. We'll see that the Mystic Leap is just one manifestation of these powers, Redding teased. That might be something that purists will balk at, but depending on how convincingly Gotham Knights sells us on the idea that the Red Hood used supernatural powers and how well that idea is executed, not only in story but also in terms of gameplay mechanics, it might actually turn out a great thing. Thankfully, Gotham Knights is launching not long from now, which means we won't have to wait awfully long to find out what it does with Jason Todd. One thing that we can be assured of, however, is that in all likeliness, he's going to be a fascinating character to witness. He usually is in most stories that he's involved in. And while there are no guarantees that this will happen here as well, things would have to go very, very wrong for Jason Todd to be less than interesting. Hopefully, that won't be the case. Did you know? We at GamingBolt upload new videos every day. Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.